This was my experience eating gluten-free in Hong Kong. We'll start at Madame Phu for a Cantonese meal. The restaurant is set in Tai Kwun, which is the former police station in Central, on the top floor of this building. It also has seating on the balcony with views over Central. I wanted to have dim sum today, so we went at lunchtime. Madame Phu has an impressively large gluten-free menu, which was about 40 items long, with a mixture of dim sum, entrees, mains and desserts. When we sat down, they had already provided 3 dipping sauces, which aren't gluten-free. Once we let them know, they swapped them out for a single gluten-free soy sauce with vinegar. The first dish which arrived was a cucumber salad, which was incredibly vinegary. This helped cut through any greasiness in the dishes which followed. This was the bean curd skin rolls, which were excellent. I find this dish can often be either quite greasy or brittle, but the wrapper on these was perfect. The mushroom filling was not that flavoursome, but still pleasant. The mushroom and black truffle dumplings were also great. You can see the dim sum wrapper was a bit on the thicker side, but the truffle was fragrant and the flavour was perfectly balanced with some nice bouncy textures. We also had the mozzarella and spinach dumplings. This is one I would definitely skip. While the skin was impressively thin, the filling just tasted like a mouthful of blanched spinach. I didn't get much of any other flavours from this at all. Next up is Chilli Fagara. This is a Szechuan restaurant just across the road from Tai Kwun, who also provides a separate gluten-free menu. In fact, we were not the only ones requesting that menu, so it's clearly a popular spot for gluten-free diners. The staff were very attentive and great at communicating. In fact, this was the only restaurant where someone came over to strike up a conversation during the meal. Szechuan cuisine is best known for its spicy and numbing dishes, but my partner and I can't take the heat. So the only spicy dish we ordered was the salt and pepper tofu. It was just on the border of being uncomfortably spicy for me. The sweet and sour mock chicken was actually the best thing for taking away the heat of the previous dish, because the chicken balls soaked up all the sauce, which would then burst in your mouth and cool it down. I wouldn't normally order this dish, but I'm glad I did, and it was surprisingly really nice. I also liked the wild mushroom and chestnut stir-fry. It was very generous on the chestnut and also had a large variety of different types of mushrooms as well, which were chewy, crunchy and tasty. We tried the gluten-free version of mapo tofu with impossible meat. The impossible meat is a $40 add-on and definitely not worth it. They gave such a tiny amount in the dish and it doesn't add much beyond a slightly chewy texture. The table next to us ordered the non-gluten-free version of this, and we could tell that in the gluten-free version that we had, the sauce was much thinner and lighter in colour. I still liked this dish, but it was not exactly what I had expected. The smacked cucumber was nice, crunchy and refreshing. We also ordered a fried rice, although they ended up giving us essentially an egg fried rice. I'm not sure why, but I think this is just how the gluten-free version comes. The non-gluten-free version of this dish looked a lot more interesting. Samsen is a Thai place. They have a few locations on Hong Kong Island. They're always really popular. They don't have a dedicated gluten-free menu, but they've labelled all of the gluten-free items. I'd say roughly a third of their menu can be made gluten-free, and all the desserts are gluten-free. Just be aware that none of the vegetarian items can be made gluten-free. So we had the pomelo salad. This was very nice, a little bit spicy. It's this kind of spice that tingles on your tongue, but this was crunchy, pretty tasty. A good appetizer. We also had the pad thai, which was excellent, very well balanced, not overpowering on the tamarind, very generous amount of prawns as well. And the fried rice was also excellent, not clumpy at all. Everything was kind of separated just as it should be, similar to the pad thai really, and quite a bit of wok hei in both dishes. And then we always like to finish on a mango sticky rice. This is such a simple dish, but so good. Next up is Lau Haa Hot Pot in Causeway Bay. They don't take online bookings, but we pinged them on WhatsApp to arrange a reservation. We also checked in with them beforehand to ask any questions about allergens before eating there. And in particular, we wanted to check what was in each of the soup bases we were interested in. They do get very busy, although we arrived early when it was still empty. This made it a bit easier to speak to the staff to confirm what we spoke about on WhatsApp. Hot pot is naturally a bit safer for celiacs because you're mostly ordering raw ingredients and cooking them yourself. One thing to be wary of is the various sauces on offer to make up our own personal concoction. A number of these will have allergens, so I made sure to avoid anything that looks marinated or fried, and to be honest, I would consider bringing my own tamari or gluten-free soy sauce next time, since that is not something they provide. The soup bases we inquired about were all gluten-free, although it's possible that it's not always the case. We had the chicken and tofu soup bases. The portions of each item they give are pretty big, and each soup base comes with a number of additional items like meat, cabbage, corn, and so on. So I think it's a good idea to order fewer items, see what comes out, and then order more if needed. The other thing to be conscious of are any fried items. They told us they only use corn flour for the fried dishes that we were interested in, but I don't know if that is always the case. Yardbird is a Yakitori restaurant in Szechuan and a good place to get a proper strong cocktail. Unfortunately, they also do not list allergens on their menu. However, their staff were knowledgeable about how each dish was prepared. They were great at communicating and were definitely eager to please. Generally speaking, a lot of the dishes could be made gluten-free. However, any dish with a tare or miso glaze could not be, and any fried dishes would use a shared fryer. We had the tomato salad. This was unique. The tomatoes are peeled, giving the whole dish a consistent, silky texture. We had the grilled mushrooms, which were very smoky and rich in flavour. The yakitori we ordered were the ume thigh, which was wrapped in a shiso leaf, and the chicken wing, which was spread out and well seasoned before being grilled. There was also the chicken knee, which had a very crunchy texture. The asparagus with onsen egg was made specifically gluten-free, although I'm not sure how this differed from the regular version. There is the asparagus, which was grilled perfectly and cut into small pieces, the onsen egg, and a nori, or seaweed sauce, which we mixed together. This wasn't a particular highlight for me, but it was not bad. Apparently this mushroom dish was just a half portion, as the staff thought we'd ordered too much already. This is one of those dishes which tastes much better than it looks. This would normally be topped with fried garlic, although for us they put it on the side so the main part of the dish was gluten-free. TheLob is a trendy cafe serving brunch, lunch, coffee and cakes. Their items are gluten-free and also sugar-free, but I'd say the main focus seemed to be on being keto-friendly. I tried their egg and salmon bagel, although I should probably say half bagel since that's all I got. It's quite small and definitely seems expensive for what you get. However, the bread was nice, it was dense, moist and not crumbly at all. I also tried the tiramisu cake and the black sesame cake. I preferred the black sesame cake. It was lacking in the usual punchy black sesame flavour that you might expect, I assume because it's sugar-free. But I liked the texture, and I actually think a milder black sesame flavour is no bad thing. For the tiramisu, they use a sponge cake instead of ladyfingers, and there is no liqueur that you would normally expect, and so this was definitely lacking in flavour as well. It was so light, it just falls over on contact, and at $88 for a small slice, it's incredibly expensive. But this place was pretty busy though, so I guess people are willing to pay. Dandy's Organic Cafe is a staple in the gluten-free scene in Hong Kong, and it's one of the only dedicated gluten-free eateries on the island. For this reason, you can rest assured that anything on the menu is safe to eat. The dishes are mostly Western, sometimes with a Southeast Asian twist, and it's definitely going for a more healthy vibe. We had the gado salad. This was a warm salad, and I think I counted at least 10 types of veggies, so definitely keeps things interesting. It's topped with crispy silken tofu and an Indonesian gado sauce. We ordered the fish and chips. The batter was very crispy, and the fish inside was fresh and moist. Both of the dishes we had were cooked well. The cafe itself only had a few diners when we went there, so it's a good place to escape the crowd, and definitely worth supporting to keep this dedicated gluten-free cafe going. Knead is a sandwich and salad shop with a couple of different branches. Most items on the menu are gluten-free. I think the only things which were not were the chicken schnitzel and tofu schnitzel. They also have a gluten-free bread option for $15 more. Normally, I wouldn't order a sandwich and would just prefer to have a salad. However, I thought I would see what their gluten-free bread was like. So I ordered a sandwich with pesto, halloumi, and eggplant. If I ordered again, I would choose a suggested sandwich from their menu instead, rather than my own custom order, because I think the ratio of sauce, filling, and bread would probably be a better fit. The sandwich I ordered looked like it had hardly any filling compared to the size of the bread, so I probably messed up here. However, the gluten-free bread was an absolute miss for me. It was extremely dry and crumbly. To be honest, I don't think I've seen gluten-free bread like this before. It might be better toasted, but I'd have to check if they have a separate toaster for their gluten-free bread. Their salads do look good though, so that is probably a better option. And I would definitely like to go back to try one of those. So there you go, that's my experience eating gluten-free in Hong Kong. Please share your own tips and experiences below, and I'll see you next time.